Most employers supposedly want the Canadian work experience, but you're an international student. How are you supposed to get the experience if no one is willing to give you that experience? This can be very frustrating, but I'm about to show you exactly how you can break that. So stick around. Hey, welcome back. If you clicked on this video, you are probably an international student in Canada, or you're planning to come here, and you've lost count of the number of times you've heard the phrase Canadian work experience. Now, let me guess, most jobs that you apply to have the phrase Canadian experience in it. Here's the truth nobody tells you. There are about 7 legitimate ways that you can get Canadian work experience as an international student. But most international students know maybe only 2 of those ways. Today, I'm going to be breaking down those 7 legitimate ways that you can gain Canadian work experience as an international student. Plus, I'll be sharing the secrets with you on how you can position yourself and land your first job as an international student here in Canada. So stick around because at the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing email templates plus the LinkedIn strategies that helped me land my first full-time job as an international student before my graduation. Now, let's get into it. First, let's talk about why this even matters in the first place, because understanding why would help you strategize on the how to go about it. Canadian work experience proves 3 things to employers. 1 is that you understand the workplace culture in Canada. Things like communication, teamwork, how feedback works, expectations around, say, punctuality, plus being a cultural fit, and how you interact with people generally in the workplace. These things matter a lot to the Canadian employer. So, whether you are from India, you are from Nigeria, whatever country you are from, these things matter a lot. Secondly, it matters because it gives you Canadian references. Your potential employers can actually call somebody in the country to verify your work ethic. Calling an employer in the country to verify your work ethic and other things that needs to be verified gives your potential employer that trust in you, and that's such a huge deal. Number 3 is that it proves that you are legally able to work in Canada. Having a Canadian work history proves that you have your SIN, you are legally able to work in Canada, and you understand how the tax system works, plus how the workplace functions in Canada. But here is a myth that most people believe, that you need a full-time job before it can count as Canadian experience. That is absolutely wrong. Except you are using that work experience to apply for your permanent residency, having it just on your resume doesn't really matter whether it's a part-time job or a full-time job. So, strategic part-time jobs, volunteering experiences, campus jobs, plus even freelance projects all count as Canadian experience. The key to that is how you frame it in your resume, and I'll be showing you exactly how to do that. Alright, so let's get straight into the 7 pathways by which you can get your Canadian work experience as an international student. Save this video or screenshot this section for reference later. Number 1 pathway to gain Canadian work experience as an international student is campus work. You can gain work experience by working on campus. And here is a catch. As an international student here in Canada, you can work unlimited hours on campus. You don't need a separate work permit to be able to work unlimited hours on campus as an international student. So why not make good use of that opportunity? You might want to ask, where are these jobs on campus? Look at your school library, your school cafeteria, your student union. There are also departmental research assistant positions on campus. Talk about IT help desks, and of course, your international student offices on campus. These jobs prove that you can work professionally in Canada, show up on time, and communicate properly in English or French, because those are the 2 official languages in Canada. They help build your resume. Make sure to put them on your LinkedIn and talk about your experiences on the job. Positive experiences, of course, and your impacts. I personally worked as a part-time graduate assistant on campus, and guess what? My contract letter states that I work with the university. So in that case, I put the name of my university in my resume as my employer. Number two pathway to gain Canadian work experience as an international student is taking co-op programs. If your program has a co-op option, take it immediately. To be honest, it doesn't matter if it adds extra semesters to you, make sure to grab it with both hands. Co-op programs are integrated into your study permit, and as of April 2026, you don't need a separate co-op permit to be able to work. Now, your co-op work permit is now integrated into your study permit, so you don't need to apply separately for a co-op work permit. What co-op means is that you can work full-time, and in most cases, these co-op programs are paid for by the employer. Most employers trust the co-op system because they know that universities have already vetted the students, so they don't need to do extra background check on you as an international student. Now to the 2026 advantage of co-op. Many Canadian employers now have dedicated co-op programs to help international students in Canada. And many of these co-op programs now have direct pathways or pipelines that can convert students to even full-time positions when they convert from study permits to postgraduate work permits. What if you're not in a co-op program? If you're not in a co-op program, you can check whether your school has something called an internship for credit program. It has the same rules that applies to co-op. Same concepts, different names. Pathway number 3 is the off-campus work permit. Some international students may be able to work off-campus for up to 24 hours per week and full-time during school scheduled breaks. Here is where most students mess up. They take just any job just to survive, which isn't a bad thing because as an international student, you have lots of bills to pay. That's understandable. But if you're strategic, you can also build relevant experience while also getting paid for that. Some areas that you can work in to build the relevant work experience in your field includes the retail sector or volunteering in your field. You can also do remote freelance employment for Canadian companies. You can also look at part-time roles for startups in your industry, for example. There are roles such as virtual assistant roles, social media manager, admin officer, executive assistants. These roles are booming and can be done while you're studying. Please note that even when you do this work, you cannot work more than 24 hours per week as an international student. Pathway number 4 is volunteering. Listen closely because this is very powerful. Volunteer work experience with Canadian firm counts towards your Canadian experience. And here is the secret. Most volunteer jobs or roles are really not distinguishable between paid or unpaid because the work and the duties that you'll be performing is also not distinguishable. So, where can you volunteer strategically as an international student? You can volunteer for non-profits in your field. You can also volunteer for industry association. When you look into your school associations, for example, you might have like student clubs relating to the field you're studying. Go into those roles, volunteer for a position, or say they have activities or events coming up, go and volunteer with them. That gives you visibility and connection. We also have other networking events and also community-led initiatives that you can volunteer for. Now, you can split your 24 hours a week into maybe 5 to 10 hours for volunteering and the remaining 14 hours for paid employment. With all of that, you're building a resume that even someone who has worked full-time may not even be able to have. I'll use myself for example. I currently volunteer for at least 3 Canadian organizations, one of which I help with creating their social media posts. And I've always been told that whenever I need a reference, I can always let them know and they are willing to write a reference for me anytime. Now let's get to pathway number 5. Pathway number 5 is about capstone projects and client-based coursework. Many Canadian programs have capstone coursework or capstone projects where you are allowed to work with real and existing Canadian companies to help them solve business problems. Why this is good for you as an international student is that most of these clients would hire you after the completion of your program on a full-time basis when you've completed this project. and these would serve as a Canadian company on your resume. They can also serve as your Canadian professional reference. Plus, you have a portfolio of your measurable work and impacts. During your project or upon completion of that project, I will advise that you ask the project coordinator or the manager to give you a LinkedIn recommendation. That way, it is posted on your profile and it remains there visible to employers or to potential employers who would like to hire you in the future. I use myself as an example. I worked on a project for the municipal government, which was mainly research based on an area of concern that was relating to my field. So I did that research, presented my findings, and my manager gave me a recommendation on LinkedIn, which is still there on my page. And that's a huge thumbs up for me because when employers come to my profile, they see that recommendation every time. It was a paid full-time job for the period of that 4 months, which was during the summer holiday. Most times when I attend interviews, they want to hear about this work that I did with the municipal government, and it's been a very great point for me during interviews because I'm excited to talk about it, talk about my findings, and how I was able to present my findings to the executive leadership of the municipal government. So that's a huge plus for my profile and my resume. Also, if I need references in the future, getting someone who was my manager who is working with the municipal government as my reference is also a big plus to my profile. So do not neglect that. Pathway number 6 is your postgraduate work permit strategy. While your postgraduate work permit isn't about getting work experience as a student, your student experience directly impacts the success of your postgraduate work permit. So pay attention. As of 2026, you may be eligible for a postgraduate work permit of up to 3 years to work after your studies. However, it also adds to your profile when Canadian employers see that you already have some Canadian work experience in your resume. How does this translate? That work that you did as a student would directly impact your postgraduate work permit by either making you job hunt for a long period of time or making that period where you're using your postgraduate work permit to work as a career building season of your life. Start your planning now. Map your strategy backward from your graduation. Aim for at least 2 to 3 relevant work experiences. And lastly, make sure to build your network before you need it. There's a popular phrase that by the time you need a person or by the time you need a relationship, it is already too late. So start now to build your network and relationships. Pathway number 7 is the entrepreneurship and freelancing. This is the final pathway I'll be talking about, and this is for self-starters. You can freelance for Canadian clients or even start a small business while on your study permit, but always ensure that you do not exceed the 24 hours per week that is permitted for you to work. Examples of work that you can do as an international student: graphic designing for Canadian businesses, tutoring, especially on campus, content creation or content development, writing script for organizations, and also consulting in your area of expertise. This works because you're building Canadian client testimonials, you're learning business culture, and you're creating portfolio pieces. All of these done while maintaining flexibility for your studies. You need to make sure that you keep track of that so that when you're filing your taxes or submitting your application for your postgraduate work permit, you can also have a record of all that. Now, let's talk about how to frame this experience because this is where a lot of international students leave money on the table by missing the plot. For instance, say you worked as a barista in a Starbucks. Do not just write barista at Starbucks. Here are other ways you can frame that in your resume to give your resume that professional look. You can write something like Customer Service Representative, Starbucks Canada. And under that, you can write the role or your description of your role to include managed high volume transactions in a high-paced environment. You can also say something like collaborated with diverse teams of 15 plus members across different departments and different shifts. Now look at the difference in those two things. If you were a hiring manager, tell me the one you would likely call for an interview. Let's talk about LinkedIn strategy for 2026. Number one is to use keywords. Use keywords in your headline. Keywords like Canadian work experience. Also, you can state that you're open to full-time work opportunities. There's a section called featured in your LinkedIn profile. Under that section, you can add your co-op supervisor recommendations plus portfolio of your work. Treat your LinkedIn like you would treat your resume. The third point is practice post at least once a week on LinkedIn. Talk about the progress of your work, what you learned during the week, what was the latest news in your area of study or your area of interest. Try to share those relevant thoughts on LinkedIn and how these things impact your knowledge or bring your own outlook to the conversation. Number four strategy on LinkedIn is to engage strategically. Try to comment on posts that are made by companies that you would like to work for. This increases your visibility. Whenever they post positions that are open for recruitment, you can chat somebody who works there, send them a message or maybe a reference or talk to them about your interest in the opportunity. Let me know in the comment section or send me an email if you would want a one-on-one on your resume and LinkedIn strategy. For example, in my case, sometimes we have employers coming to my school for career events where they talk to students about what the firm or the company is about. In those cases, I try to connect with the people who came for that presentation, connect with them on LinkedIn, and then maybe send an appreciation letter at the end of the day, thanking them for coming to my school and what I learned during this section. One of those events, when I checked online, I saw that the company had an opening for a position that I was interested in. Guess what? I reached out to one of those people who had come to my school, who I had earlier sent a thank you note to, and told them that I just saw this opening in your organization and that I'm interested in applying. While I had already applied online separately, I still contacted this person on LinkedIn. I was asked to send my resume directly and I got an interview. So you see how building your network works. Even the simplest acknowledgement of the efforts of people who come to your school can go a long way. Before I wrap up this video, let me give you some insider tips of what to do and what not to do as an international student. Number one, do start in your first semester. Do not wait until your last semester or when you graduate before you start reaching out to people or looking out for these opportunities. I got my first full-time job offer 6 months before my graduation, and my resumption date was even a year after I got that offer. So you see, some of these job opportunities are being recruited for in advance. Secondly, customize your application to show that you understand the workplace norm of the Canadian employers. Thirdly, ensure that you ask for references after every positive experience that you have working for anybody. One important one that most students ignore is joining your school's chapter of professional associations. For instance, if you are a CPA student or you would like to do CPA, your school has a CPA Students Association, ISACA Students Association, all of those students association. Join them and be actively involved. If you can take up a position in those associations, even if it's volunteering, paid or unpaid, please do so. That gives you visibility to be able to relate with employers. Once you introduce yourself, they are willing to listen to you, they are willing to help you. So make good use of those resources available in your school. Last but not the least, attend employer information sessions. Most times they come on campus trying to scout for students for their entry-level roles. You do not want to be absent in those cases. Take their contact, engage, ask questions, connect with them on LinkedIn, send them a thank you note after the event for connecting. Tell them, thank you for coming to my school. I really appreciated the section and the way you answered my questions. And, just build that relationship. Do not wait until there's an opening before you just barge into their message section. That is how you build relationships. So start early. Those are the things that worked for me. And that's why I'm also sharing it so that you can take 1 or 2 lessons from it and also build your own experiences. Now we are done with the list of the do's. I will be talking about the don'ts. Do not wait until it's too late before you start applying. You can start applying for your full-time roles as early as 1 year to the end of your program. Like I said, I got my first full-time job 6 months to the end of my program. My friend God has 1 year to the end of our program. Second mistake people make is applying only online. Do not just apply only online. 60% of job opportunities are not posted online. In most cases, when they are posted online, it's actually just to tick off a checkbox of their recruitment process. Try to network, and within your network, you might have these information. Something as little as somebody talking to your student association president and saying, "We are looking for these roles in my organization. Can you recommend?" Now, the student president is your friend or your colleague. And if you are well known, maybe as a volunteer in that students association, they can even recommend you for that position. Next is, do not ignore the small opportunities. Over time, these small opportunities that you think might not amount to anything may be the ones to even open the doors for you. Lastly, do not be afraid to ask for help. Ask questions. Ask your colleagues, ask your peers, ask people on LinkedIn. I have several cold emails of my LinkedIn of me going into people's message and asking them questions about different things. I would see if I can attach some of these messages that I have sent in the past and some of the responses that I have got. I don't always get responses all the time, but some people do respond to me in a very kind and polite way. Here are some common mistakes that most international students do. Mistake number one is that overqualified trap. Let's say you were a senior manager back in your home country. Now you're in Canada and you're applying for senior manager roles. Based on my research and from my interaction with some employers and colleagues who are currently in the Canadian workplace, sometimes it's difficult for them to just put you in some senior manager roles just like that. You might be required to start from some levels below that position. Gain the Canadian work experience first before you climb. So do not be stuck in that overqualified trap. Be flexible. Start from somewhere and grow from there. There is nothing wrong about that. Mistake number two is the isolation trap. Your campus clubs, your study groups, the volunteer teams, these are your network as an international student. Do not get stuck just working a certain kind of job off campus that you forget to network with your peers. Sometimes the international students who get hired first are not always the smartest, but they are the ones who are connected the most and who put themselves out there. And finally, mistake number three is the waiting game. Do not wait for the perfect opportunity. If you see a good enough opportunity, grab it and grow from there. With the little you have in your hand, show your work ethic, show that you're willing to learn, show that you're a great team player, and you have initiative in your work. Look, I get it. Being an international student in Canada can be overwhelming. You are adapting to a new educational system, you're adapting to the new environment, you're adapting to the culture, and so much more happening with you. And you're trying to build a career in a place where you do not even have family or the necessary professional connections to help you. I totally get it. But here's what I know out of my experience. Lots of international students are figuring this out year in, year out. And so can you. The ones who succeed aren't lucky. They are strategic in their approach. They say yes to opportunities early and they frame their experiences in a way that the Canadian employers understand. Understand the language of the Canadian employer and speak that language. Trust me, you have more opportunities than you think. You just need to find out the right places to get these opportunities. If you need me to talk more on how I framed my resume and how I checked out these opportunities on my own, please leave a comment in the comment section and I'll answer your questions. Having said all that, here is what I want you to do. Subscribe to this channel. I share valuable insights and I post videos every week on how to succeed as an international student here in Canada. Also, in the comment section, comment what your biggest challenge has been so far in getting the Canadian work experience. I read every comment and I make videos answering your specific questions. Lastly, share this video with another international student and also share within your network. Do not forget to check the description box for additional valuable resources as well. You've got this. Canada needs your talent, your perspective, and your drive. Do not let the experience paradox stop you and put you in a box. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, keep grinding and bye for now.